Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. The Government Accountability Office is pushing on the VA, well, the Board of Veterans Appeals, pushing on the Board of Veterans Appeals with recommendations to address gaps in quality assurance. So, this is interesting, and it will absolutely affect us because not only will the Board of Veterans Appeals be looking to potentially shake things up a little bit, but what sort of collateral, I guess, trickle down sort of effects will happen at the VA level, as the VA is making decisions and then those get appealed and pushed to the board, and then the board is now going to be looking at why these things, I'm sure there's going to be pressure put back onto the VA because nobody likes to be wrong, right? So you're going to have the Board of Veterans Appeals saying, well, if the VA would have, so I'm kind of curious to see what the fallout's going to be on this. So in any case, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. Please let the video roll on if you already are aware of this information. That helps to put this in the hands of those that need it. If you're not a member, consider joining. Helps me to find you in the comments, and it's a great way to support the channel. All right, so jumping into it here, VA disability benefits, which we all know and love, right? Board of Veterans Appeals should address gaps in its quality assurance process. This just came out the end of November, and I'm happy to share it with you here. So first it starts off, this is directly from, by the way, the U.S. Government Accountability Office. And first they have a little section here, fast facts. So I'm going to read through that first and then jump into the short article. If the VA denies a veteran benefit request, the veteran can bring the case to the Board of Veterans Appeals. Congress has raised questions about the quality of the board's decisions. Nobody likes to be wrong. We testified that the board faces large workloads and time pressures. Quality assurance activities such as case reviews and decision monitoring are key tools for minimizing rework. But the board could better use evidence to support these activities. For example, it hasn't fully addressed or assessed the underlying causes of common errors, which could lead to better solutions. We recommended doing so and using other evidence to address gaps in the board's quality assurance. Now, I'm going to jump in with this as well. I recently put out a video on kind of the other side of this, or part of the same. I guess it's the same overarching information. So what happens is if a veteran disagrees with a board decision, then it can get pushed to the U.S. courts on Veterans Appeals. And so that's the higher court, right? So then if that court gets it, they can either, approve it, they can go mediation, they can deny it, or they can push it back down to what I call the lower court, which is the board, and as a remand. So it goes back to them, and then they have to rework. So it's interesting. So we'll see what's happening here. All right. So, but the board could, I already read that part. Sorry about that. All right. So highlights what GAO found, and that's the Government Accountability Office. What they found, the Board of Veterans Appeals, the board, has quality assurance process and a related accuracy measure for its decisions. Specifically, its QA process involves 1, checking a random sample of draft decisions for certain types of board-defined errors each month through its case review process, and 2, monitoring outcomes of board decisions that were further appealed to the U.S. Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims, the higher court. The board uses results from these activities to provide various interventions such as individual feedback to the veteran, law judges, the VLJs, or training. The board also calculates and publishes an accuracy rate that represents error-free adjudications. However, GAO found shortfalls in the board's process for calculating this measure. Contrary to the federal internal control standards, GAO found that the board did not have 1, written policies or procedures for calculating its accuracy rate or managing case review error data, or 2, checks on its accuracy rate calculation. As a result, the board lost data, and GAO could not verify accuracy rates provided by the board in 2 of 4 fiscal years. Until the board develops written policies and procedures, the board will likely continue to have difficulties supporting the accuracy of its publicly reported measure. GAO found gaps in the board's effort to build and use evidence, such as a lack of data and analysis, to assess its QA process and related activities. GAO analysis of CAVC and board data show that over the past 3 fiscal years, CAVC remanded, sent back about 80% of appealed board decisions. That's huge. So the board made their decision, negative. Then the veteran appealed it, goes to the CAVC, then it gets kicked back to the board because they feel the board didn't do enough. 80% of the time. Wow. However, GAO found that the board lacked evidence to better understand and address these and other issues and set priorities to help improve its QA process. Specifically, 4 bullet points here. Board officials told GAO it has no comprehensive written plan outlining how it will accomplish the mission and goals of its QA process. Board officials told GAO that they had not fully analyzed trends or underlying causes of the most common board identified errors or CAVC remands. The board has not systematically or comprehensively built or used evidence to better understand and improve its interventions, such as collecting feedback about training. Last bullet point, the board does not assess VLJ, this is the Veterans Law Judges, decisions for consistency, such as whether common misunderstandings of policy or law exist in decisions. That one's a little bit surprising, sadly. So here in a minute, I'm going to get to the recommendations. I got like 2 paragraphs. All right, GAO's prior work has identified key practices for evidence-based decision-making. These practices involve building and assessing evidence and using it to foster a culture of continuous improvement. Absent such a process and a plan to guide it, the board is not positioned to fully understand and address underlying causes of the most common errors and remands, or understand consistency, evidence, which is needed to target and implement effective interventions and foster continuous improvement of its QA efforts. Why GAO did this study? Each year, the board adjudicates thousands of cases in which a veteran was dissatisfied with the Department of Veterans Affairs' initial decision on their claim for benefits. However, researchers and Congress have raised questions about how the board ensures the quality of its adjudications. GAO was asked to review the board QA process. This testimony examines 1, how the board assures and measures the quality of its adjudication decisions, and 2, the extent to which the board builds and uses evidence to assess its QA process. GAO reviewed relevant federal laws and board documents. GAO analyzed QA data provided by the board for fiscal years 2019 through 2022 and assessed its reliability. GAO also reviewed relevant quality assurance literature and interviewed VA officials, attorneys, VLJs, and subject matter experts, including researchers and veteran service organizations. GAO also conducted group discussions with randomly selected board decision writing attorneys and veteran law judges. All right, the recommendations, a short little 4 or 5 line paragraph here. So recommendations. GAO is making 4 recommendations, including that the board develop policies for calculating its accuracy rate, develop and implement an evidence-based decision-making process for its QA efforts, and study decision-making consistency. The board generally agreed with 3 recommendations and disagreed with the 4th about consistency. GAO continues to believe that the recommendation is valid as discussed in this report. So, pretty interesting here. Let's see. I'm going to read out the actual recommendations. Recommendation, The chairman of the Board of Veterans Appeals should develop written policies and procedures related to its accuracy rate measure to require that OA1 involves more than one official in the calculation process, documents its calculation of monthly and fiscal year accuracy rates, and manages related error data. Second recommendation is the chairman of the Board of Veterans Appeals should monitor how veteran law judges choose to incorporate the feedback they receive from the case review process, including whether errors are corrected, and use this data to inform decision-making related to the case review process. Third one here, recommendation, the chairman of the Board of Veterans Appeals should develop and implement an evidence-based decision-making process that includes a plan outlining how it will build evidence to assess the underlying cause for the most common errors identified by the case review process and the most common reasons for CAVC remands. The board should use this evidence to better target its interventions and assess their results. One option is to fold the development of this process into the board's planned evaluation. Recommendation number 4, the last one here, the chairman of the Board of the Veterans Appeals should study how to evaluate veterans law judges' their adjudication decisional consistency. One option is to fold the development of this study into the board's planned evaluation. And that concludes this, I'll call it a release from the GAO on the VA disability benefits, specifically the Board of Veterans Appeals. And it is a little number here, GAO-24-106156, and I'll put all of that in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much. Have a great one, and remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.